Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, part of the Bet Rivers Network. We come to you on this football Sunday after, I guess, the only thing you can call it is a Jet debacle. Number one, a lot of empty seats, and it just shows you there's no motivation for the Jets. There's no motivation for the Dolphin fans who don't yet believe in this team, despite the fact they've put together a good run here. Today we'll move to 6-7 on the season. You know, they had the coach out the door. The coaches put the season back together, and really, I could have come down and done it after the first two series of the game, where the Dolphins just had the Jets reeling. The Jets didn't understand what the Dolphins were doing with their offense. The Dolphins formation them into gash plays on every single play. And I'll tell you, if Ashawn had played the entire game today, now I figured they would have taken him out in the second half anyway. He wound up leaving late in the first half with a rib injury, and he already had 90 rushing and I think one catch for 13 yards. He could have put up 100 receiving and 200 rushing today without even breaking a sweat. That's how easy it was for him. As the Dolphins with a 31-10 lead. Now, Taylor goes out on the interception that at 14-0, that makes it 21-0. After a couple of plays, we find out he somehow tore a groin or injured a groin, or maybe, just decided he didn't want to play anymore. I have no idea. Listen, Taylor can't be your only quarterback. Fields wasn't healthy today. You got to have more than Cook there, because Brady Cook had no idea. He couldn't even handle the snaps. I mean, Hall was yelling to him on plays to try to get him to see what was going on. That's how bad it was. And the Jets and their staff were so ill prepared for not only the start of the game from the Dolphins offensively, they were so ill prepared for Cook going in the game, they didn't even know what to do. They didn't throw the ball the whole once until in the second half on a 3rd and 12. Out of desperation, he flipped the ball on the flat way past Hall. That's the only play. They didn't run a screen. They didn't run a play in the flat for Hall. They ran one, I should say. They ran one, but it was negated by a false start. What are they thinking? Give the kids some easy throws. Get the ball to a playmaker. In You're not gonna run the ball out there. Instead of trying to force feed it, and he did have some drops, and he got sacked like 5, 6 times. I don't even know. I stopped counting. He fumbled twice. He luckily didn't lose either of them. He threw a terrible interception. He has no idea what he's doing, and Hall's in there trying to help him. Never flipped the ball to Hall in the flat one time to give him a chance to try to break a play. I mean, what are the Jets thinking? They are so in over their head at times from a coaching standpoint. It's sad. It really is. And from the start today, they were just so badly outgunned and out prepared for this game. I mean, Miami came in with a game plan. The Jets came in, it seemed like, with no idea what was going to happen and how to deal with this Dolphin offense. And then you get the Taylor injury, so that's the end of that. The only thing you had that kept it respectable was the punt return. The Jets have been good on special teams. We all know that. Okay, that's one thing if you want to hold your head up, but this is embarrassing. I mean, this was just one of those days. I mean, I don't even know if you're a Jet fan how you even sat in there. I guess because you went there, you'll figure you'll sit there till the third quarter and start home. I mean, you must be rethinking even going there. I mean, and there were sections that were empty today. Sections that were empty. That's how bad it was today. And I understand, because the Dolphin fans aren't going to buy the tickets. And the Jet fans don't want to go to the games. And now you don't even have a quarterback who knows what he's doing. Taylor's hurt again, and he's always going to be hurt. That's why you can never even use him as a bona fide backup. He's too old. He really needs to retire. He's not a bad quarterback. He just needs to retire. He's always going to get hurt. He gets hurt all the time. He got hurt on a play where he didn't even get hit hard. He got hurt. And but they were so far out of it after the first 2 series, they didn't even know what was going on in the game. Now, there's some NFL things to talk about here as these games come to a close. Um, Burrow's having a bizarre game up there in Buffalo. He looked like he was gonna beat the Bills, and then he threw 2 inexplicable passes at the line of scrimmage that both got intercepted, one for a touchdown, and turned the game around. The Bills went up 10, and then Burrow came right back and scored. Now, I think they'd probably have to onside kick, so they're not gonna win it. But, I mean, Burrow's gotta be kicking himself because he tried to flip the ball to the back, and he in the snow, he misguided the throws after having a sensational game before that. And I think he was gonna beat the Bills. I really do. Now he's not, but, the Bills are gonna get a win. Um, the Steelers are trying to hold off the Ravens. You're seeing Rodgers play pretty well today. You're seeing, Lamar Jackson starting to look like his old self here in the second half of this game. So that's still up for grabs. The Saints are trying to deal the Bucks a very bad defeat if they do that. And then the big news, the Jaguars routed the Colts. And I don't have definitive word yet, but it sounds like that Daniel Jones, and you saw him banging his helmet on the turf, sounds like he suffered a serious Achilles injury. Nobody could have been rooting for that for Daniel Jones. So they put Riley Leonard, who hasn't played at all. Uh, the Jaguars are going to the playoffs. And, the much maligned Trevor Lawrence uh, just keeps moving his team and winning. So, I mean, he's going to be 9-4 after today. And all I do is complain about him. So, it'd be nice to have a quarterback like that who has you at 9-4 and you're complaining. The Titans look like they're going to beat the Browns. So that's where we are with the early games. We got some big games coming up. We got the Bears and the Packers at 4:00, which is going to be really big. And then you got the Texans and the Chiefs tonight. You got the Eagles tomorrow. So do the Steelers. The Colts lost to the Jaguars. Big win for the Jaguars. Very tough loss for the Colts, who now lose their quarterback, and the season's going up in flames for the Colts. Steelers trying to hold off the Ravens. They might not. We'll see. That's still very much up in the air. And then you have the big 4:00 game between the Bears and the Packers. Couple of things here I want to get to because there's really nothing to get to on the Jets today. They were missing people. They got people hurt. They were down 21-0 with 4 minutes left in the first quarter. They were never in the game. They were never going to be in the game. Ashawn, just to give you an idea, and right now it's 34-10, just to give you an idea of dominance, Ashawn touched the ball 8 times today for 105 yards and a touchdown. 8 times he touched the ball. He rushed for 92. He caught one pass for 13. 8 touches, 105 yards, and a touchdown. And that was in the second quarter. So you imagine where this game would have gone. Wright wound up with 107 yards on 24 carries so far. Okay, as his backup. And the Fish, they're doing a good job. I mean, and the coach has done a good job. Say what you want about him, but he's done a very, very, very good job. He really has. There's nothing left to say. I'm looking here at this is Notre Dame just put out a statement. I want to see what it is because I want to get to Notre Dame, but they just officially put out a statement. Let me get to it. I'm just trying to blow it up so I can read it. It's really, really small print. Okay, let me get to it. Here we go. Okay. Notre Dame. As a team, we've decided to withdraw our name from consideration for a bowl game following this season. We appreciate all the support from our families and fans, and we're hoping to bring the 12th national title to South Bend in 2026. Sincerely, the 2025 Notre Dame football team. So Notre Dame shut out of the playoff today. Now, this is where college football is. The playoff system is as screwed up as the sport is right now. And both sports, college football, college basketball, are completely screwed up right now. It's the Wild West. It's just ridiculous. And they didn't even really have a justification for how they judge these teams. Okay? They moved Notre Dame behind Miami when neither team played, based on the fact that they downgraded BYU, which brought Miami to the level of Notre Dame. And then they used the head-to-head back in September and brought in coaches and said, let's evaluate that tape. The game was played in September. If you are going to run a ranking and try to pick the best teams, whether it's 12 teams, 26 teams, 4,000 teams, 16 teams, and try to pick the best teams in December, why the hell are you only going to look at September games? Teams don't improve? You don't think you would find teams now that wouldn't even make the NCAA tournament in basketball here in December that will be terrific by March? You better hope St. John's is one of them, because right now they're not good enough to beat anybody. Forget that for a second. I'll get to St. John's. Now, I understand that Notre Dame played an incredibly soft schedule. I also understand they don't have the protection and never will, okay? They want to force Notre Dame into a league. Notre Dame, remember, is now and has been forever the only team that is a network in its own world. No one else is. Not the Dallas Cowboys, not the New York Yankees, nobody. Notre Dame plays no regional games. Every game they play is nationally televised. Every single game. It has been that way forever. Because they are Notre Dame and no one else is. They are not going to join a football conference. Doesn't mean they can't improve their schedule, but tell me about schedules now. Tell me if a team like Texas, which was shut out and belonged in there, in my mind, belonged in that thing today, in that tournament today also. And if you're going to have teams go in there under the protection where they don't have to play or win or do anything yesterday, like Alabama, to stay in the tournament. I'm not talking about Ohio State here, okay? I'm talking about Alabama. And you're going to take weak teams to protect the. If you're going to take leagues, then you have to make them at-large bids so that they are defined before the competition starts. You cannot take them randomly and then say our goal, our premise, our only justification is to pick the top 12 teams and then leave Notre Dame and Texas out, because they're clearly among the top 12 teams. I think Vandy's a really good team. I don't think they're a top 12 team. I think Texas is. I think Notre Dame is. I think right now, Notre Dame, if I was going to rank them, would probably be ranked 6 or 7 in the country. Legitimately. I understand they lost 2 games early in the season. I understand that. And I understand it's Notre Dame, so half the world hates them and half the world worships them. And down in SEC country, they love punishing Notre Dame. Okay. But the idea of how SEC centric that whole thing is ridiculous. It is not run fairly. And the SEC is the best league by a mile. I am not arguing that. I am not quibbling about teams like Ole Miss or Texas A&M. They belong there. But there is no justification you can use in picking those 12 and say that you did what was the mission, which was to pick the best 12 teams in the country, because clearly they're not. If you had to honor leagues, then put them in as automatic qualifiers so that we understand that there are only so many at-large slots. And that means the leagues that you pick get in no matter what their record is. It's not judged on, oh, they're not really, they don't belong. Oh, we can't take them. They have this many losses. It's nonsense. Either they belong or they don't belong. Right now, that thing is set up so badly and so unfairly, there is no way to justify it and no way to defend it. And I don't care if you're a Notre Dame fan or not a Notre Dame fan. Somebody was going to get screwed. Hey, if Miami was on the outside looking in, they'd have a big argument because they beat Notre Dame. This was not an easy thing. I didn't say it was, but they did not come up with any clearly definable rules and interpretations of what they were trying to do. They did it, and then they tried to sell it, and it doesn't work. So now you have Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, still the most powerful single entity in the sport, not even participating in the postseason. And Texas, tell me why from now on any team would schedule a non-conference opponent like Texas did to play Ohio State on the road in September. What would you possibly do that for in the future when it can only come back to destroy you? They lost by 7 points at the start of the season with a brand new quarterback in Columbus against the best team in the country. And yes, even though Indiana won last night, and I want to credit their quarterback, and I want to credit the players, and I want to tell you that what Cignetti has done there is one of the greatest building jobs. I would equate it to what Jim Calhoun did at UConn. It is impossible what he has done there. He has built something where there was nothing. Now, you can only do it now in this world where you can bring so many players in at the same time. You couldn't do that in the days of Bill Mallory. It couldn't be done because he couldn't recruit. And I don't care if they got Ohio State's best last night or not. They beat them fair and square. Whether you didn't like who Ohio State had on the field personnel-wise in the red zone, or whether you didn't like the play calls they made or how they played the game on those 2 drives that could have resulted in 2 touchdowns and a victory, okay? And I understand those who wanna say the loss meant nothing to Ohio State. Well, you're right. The conference championship meant something special to Indiana. Well, you would feel that way too if you are Indiana and you never win Big Ten titles and you hadn't beat Ohio State in 30 years. You care also. You've built something brilliant there. If you're Cignetti, if you're Mendoza, of course you care. and more power to you. I'm not taking away anything from what you've accomplished. There are a lot of reasons why Ohio State wouldn't be at their best last night. I don't want to say I don't want to hear it. They still had multiple chances to win the game. If they executed, they win the game. And they didn't execute. And Indiana executed a couple of pass plays and won the game. And a couple of fourth down, stands. A couple of goal line stands. They got a break in the review? No, they didn't get a break. The review got it right. It's a tough break. It happens. Miss a field goal. It happens. And yes, if Ohio State comes back and winds up playing Indiana again and they beat them for the national championship, well, then, yes, that will be the bigger game. There's no question. Indiana's going to have to do it again if they see Ohio State again. I'm sure they don't want any part of Ohio State again. I wouldn't want them. I wouldn't want to have to beat them twice to win the national championship. That's not the point, though. The point is they've destroyed their own leagues now. The leagues mean nothing. League championships mean nothing. There is nothing attached to them. These teams were in there no matter what. Ohio State went down one slot, still gets a bye. I mean, they didn't lose anything in the competition. They lost nothing. Absolutely nothing. They lost a Big Ten title if they care. And if they win a national championship, they're not going to care one iota. Not one iota. They beat Michigan. If they win the national championship, they'll have accomplished everything they wanted to accomplish this year. And they can, they can take care of Indiana when they see them again. There's a very good chance the teams would meet again this year. I mean, I'm not ruling out a couple of the other teams, especially Texas Tech and Georgia. And I think Texas Tech, as I told you all year, I love that team. I've been picking them all year, and I think they're very, very good. But the sport is screwed up, and the competition and how they do it and how they ran and how they put this field together is as screwed up as the sport is. You knew you were going to have somebody screaming today. But if you're Texas, tell me why you would ever schedule a big non-conference game again. Play 3 cupcakes and then just play your league. And if you run the table or lose once, you're in. Why fool around playing big-time non-conference games? So they're going to destroy their own sport in September. Because the only games you're going to have that are going to be big is if you schedule conference games early in the season. There's going to be no such thing as a non-conference game. If you're Notre Dame, you can't back you. Hey, when you have nothing on the back end of your schedule, you can't lose your first 2 games. I understand that. Is Notre Dame one of the here's how I'll ask the question. Is Notre Dame one of the 12 best teams in the country? There is nobody anywhere who would tell you they are not. There is not a person who would look into a camera who knows anything about the sport and tell you that Notre Dame right now is not one of the 12 best teams in the country. They absolutely are. It's not even debatable. They might be one of the 6 best teams in the country. They could win a national championship this year. Texas belongs in that competition. There are schools in there that don't belong in that competition. And they have no way of explaining exactly what they utilized as their criteria for that to happen. And they moved Notre Dame and Miami. They moved Miami from behind Notre Dame to ahead of Notre Dame with neither of them playing. It's an artful dodge. So Notre Dame says, There have been some rumblings that they might go play and against BYU in Orlando, which who would have cared about that game anyway? Unless they were going to go play Texas somewhere, who would even care about where they played? And most of these bowl games now not played inside the playoff. None of the guys who are going to the NFL play anyway, so the games are worthless. They're almost unwatchable. So they've destroyed the bowls, which have been good to them for 50 years. They've destroyed the bowls, except the ones that partake in the playoff, which has nothing to do with their bowls anymore. They're not even a bowl anymore. In essence, what they do, they're just a site. That's all they are. They have nothing to do about anything anymore. And now you've destroyed and devalued anything in college football that has to do with any non-conference games. There's no such thing anymore. Now you're just in these holding zones, these massive leagues where you're there to gulp up the TV money and be protected, and you play your league and away you go. And try not to lose more than 2 games. That's the essence of the sport now. Then make the competition, and you wait for the games at the end of the year. So what college football had was it had a sport where every game was important, where rivalries were special, where history mattered, and they have completely destroyed all of that. That's because the guys who are now running it are bean counters, TV executives who know nothing about what the sport is about. College football is built on tradition, history, and rivalries. And the fact that every game counted. No longer the case. No longer the case. Now, St. John's. Let me give you those, see if we have finals there in those games first before I get to St. John's. So Notre Dame has already said we're passing. We'll try to win a championship next year. We're not going to play in any bowl games. Seahawks routed the Falcons. Bills beat the Bengals thanks to those 2 interceptions by Burrow, who played really well, but then had those 2 inexplicable interceptions at the goal at the line of scrimmage. Vikings routed the Commanders. I don't know why Daniels was playing. He got hurt again. What are you, stupid? Dolphins routed the Jets. Saints beat the Bucs, which is a really bad loss for the Bucs. Jaguars beat the Colts, and Daniel Jones went down with what looked to be a serious Achilles injury. Very sad. The Steelers are trying to hold off the Ravens, who are on the Steelers' 39-yard line, 39-yard line with 16 seconds left, down 5. And the Titans and Browns, if you care, and I don't know why anybody would, are still playing. Now, St. John's had a bunch of time off to get ready for a game against Ole Miss, and Ole Miss came in very well coached. The 2 coaches are very close. That's why the game was made. Ole Miss's coach is very good. He's been very unhappy with his team. His team comes in and having fallen apart, benching key people. After the game, he said St. John's was good. He's going to say that. Pete Cinos is a real good buddy. Number 2, we played our best defensive game. The game was awful. The game at times was hideous. St. John's had 8 assists and 20 turnovers. I'm going to tell you they played improved defense. Well, that's because neither team could hit the broadside of a barn with a 3-point shot. And I'm telling you, I counted many, many open threes that just clanged. not just because there was such great defense and closing out on three-point shooters. There was so many open threes that were just clanged by two teams that are absolute bricklayers. And St. John's, and I'll tell you this, and I blame me for this, but I got to also blame Patino a little bit for this because I got to be honest with you. I saw Rick plenty of times in the summer at Saratoga, and he was raving about his NIL haul. And I asked two questions. I said, "Do you have a point guard?" He said, "Absolutely." I'm not sure he does. And I said, "Do you have any three-point shooters?" We can really shoot. Well, neither of those has even been evidenced. There has been no sign of life in either of those categories. Okay, their offense is awful. I think they might not yet have settled on the players who are going to be the keys. I don't want to get into a whole long dissertation today, but I will down the road. And there are two players that I think could be critical and are not yet. I mean, let's be honest. Number one, St. John's and its head coach, who is without question, folks, no one needs to even add the comma, is one of the great coaches ever. I mean, he's a tier one, top of the line, incredible basketball coach. He will make any team better over the course of the season. But he clearly, without any question, miscalculated on his haul, his crop of players. They do not fit the way he had hoped they would fit because there's no way he hoped they fit like this. Number two, I'm not sure he has a point guard that you can win with. And number three, they don't. I mean, his point guard, who he thinks is his point guard, is shooting 7% from three. And 8 assists and 20 turnovers is not exactly what you would call crisp offensive basketball. And some of the turnovers coming out of a timeout, getting a 5-second violation, just literally handing the ball to the other team, not being able to actually run a play. I mean, hideous stuff from both schools last night, but from St. John's. I mean, St. John's had a 14-point lead. They had a 15-point lead at one point, and a 14-point lead in the second half, and they blew it. They let Ole Miss, which is not a good team, come down the floor and score 5 straight trips in the second half. St. John's has woeful weaknesses right now. Does that mean the season's over? No. They need an incredible amount of work, and I think that I'm hoping they have not settled on what will be their final rotation and their final lineup because I don't think this is it. I know he has visions for Darling. I just don't know if Darling's able to do what he wants Darling to do. From what I've seen. He's gonna have to roll up his sleeves. He's got a lot of work to do. And this team's gonna be a much, much harder fix than last year's was. And last year's couldn't shoot. And this year's can't shoot either. They can't shoot. I mean, historically, a couple of them can shoot, but they haven't shot here. Now, have they played some good teams? Yes. Does the Iowa State look better? Yeah, because Iowa State went into Purdue. Iowa State's an impossible matchup. Purdue couldn't play them man to man. And Iowa State blew them out, ran them out of the building. Iowa State's a tremendous team and tremendously coached. But I don't want to hear about a Michigan scrimmage. okay, that they played close to the Michigan scrimmage, and Michigan's been burying people. What do I care what a Michigan did in the scrimmage? I mean, that you're drawing at straws when you're bringing up Michigan scrimmages. And they were hideous in the Auburn game. Hideous. And they were hideous in the Alabama game when Alabama just basically destroyed them off the dribble. And they were hideous in the Auburn game. And Auburn last night lost to Auburn has twice lost by 30 points since then. Twice. They got beat by Arizona last night by 30 points. They got beat in just out there in that wacky tournament. They got beat by 30 points. And don't tell me what's going on with Kentucky. Kentucky has already admitted that they completely screwed up the NIL. He admits he brought in the wrong mix of players. He has already gotten behind the microphone and admitted that. I screwed up. I did not build a team. I built a collection of players, and they are a collection of players. And right now, that's what St. John's is. They're a collection of players and not a good collection. They are not a team. And you're not that far from the Big East. There's a couple tough games coming up in the next couple of weeks before they get to the Big East. And in the Big East, they're not in UConn's league right now. Not close. I think if they played UConn, and they don't play UConn for a long time. If they play UConn now, I think UConn would beat the heck out of them. I'm not sure how good Villanova is yet. They've been playing soft competition, so I really can't tell yet. They played well against BYU the first game. I liked it. I saw it. They've been playing soft competition since then, so I really can't tell yet. It looks more like a Villanova team that you're used to than they did in the last 3 years. Let me say that. But you expected that with the change. They brought in a lot of new players. They seem to fit a lot better right now than St. John's do. But again, they have not played St. John's level of teams. I'm not saying they have. We talked top 10. We talked about top 10 talent. That's what the discussion was in the summer. Now, I'm going on, the head coach is telling me this about the players. So I'm figuring, hey, who's going to know better than him? Best laid plans sometimes is when you bring the collection in, they don't look and don't act like you hope they would act. Clearly, there's some of that going on from the defensive side, but hey, don't discount the offensive side. They're not good offensively either. They're dreadful defensively, and they were better against Ole Miss, but Ole Miss isn't any good offensively. There's a lot of work that has to be done. And this is a lot bigger project than any of us ever thought it would be this year. I thought on a bad week they'd be in, the 10 to 15 range. I never thought they'd be in the way they are now. It's a long way. It's a long way to march, but it's a long way to them being good too. Huge win for the Steelers. Huge win for the Steelers over the Ravens. Yes, Lamar played better today. He had a touchdown pass. He had a touchdown run. He didn't play like Lamar, but he didn't play like the guy was playing like a mummy the last couple of weeks. Rodgers did enough. 23 of 34, 284, threw a touchdown pass, ran for a touchdown. First touchdown he's run for. He never ran for a touchdown with the Jets. His first touchdown he's run in a while from the 1 yard line to start the proceedings today. But the thing was, they won the game today. Tomlin is not leaving the Steelers. Steelers already said that this week. So anyone who thought he's coming to the Giants, he's not leaving the Steelers. We told you that a couple weeks ago. And we're not getting rid of Tomlin. And they're not. Tomlin would have to say he wants out of there. Now, if he said he wanted out of there and he wants to change, they'd probably honor it. But I don't think he's going to do that. And especially if they make the playoffs, which they took a big step towards the playoffs today with that win over the Ravens in Baltimore. We'll see you later.